Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Toast, and we just got some news that I'm actually really happy to talk about today, and that's because not only is it official Switch 2 news, but it's also really good news as well. Really, for anybody who's interested in picking up a Switch 2 in 2025, this is a fantastic update, so make sure to stick around, and we're going to talk all about that today. Now, it also sounds like Xbox and PlayStation is going to get some more competition in the nearest future. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and I truly do appreciate you. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Capcom, because they just held their own showcase, the Capcom Spotlight, where they revealed some low-key, very exciting stuff. So we're going to get into everything that they revealed here, including Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. There was a lot of controversy last year when this game initially skipped the Xbox due to technical problems, but that's no longer the case. They got it fixed up and it's now available on Xbox through their digital storefront. Now, unfortunately, there's no physical release, but I'd still say that this is better than nothing, which is what they previously had. Now, speaking of Marvel vs. Capcom, though, Collection 2 just got its release date, which is for May 16th, and this is for the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and yes, this time it will launch simultaneously with the Xbox as well. So they apparently got that technical issue fixed up, and now fighting game fans across all platforms can rejoice. The same can also be said for you Onimusha fans out there, as it's coming back in a major way. Not only with a brand new release, Onimusha The Way of the Sword, which they talked about here at the Capcom Spotlight, they mentioned that it won't be an impossibly difficult game if that was something you were concerned about, and they also revealed a remaster for Onimusha 2. Yeah, there you go. This is an old PlayStation 2 game from 2002, and even though they didn't announce an exact release date, they did confirm that it will be out sometime this year in 2025, and I think this is a really good move from them. The next Onimusha is still probably a ways out. I think it's currently planned for 2026, barring no delays. But, I mean, this is an old series that's been dormant for a very long time. So now that they have the first two games remastered for modern platforms, you know, this is going to be a great way to reintroduce old fans and also new fans alike. Now, they also held a Monster Hunter Wilds showcase, as they very much should. I mean, I fully expect this to be one of the biggest launches of 2025 with millions of players on day one. Though I think one question that a lot of people have, maybe it's a concern, is how is its performance? Well, the good news here is that they just dropped a Monster Hunter Wilds benchmark that you can download on Steam right now. This is supposed to give you a relative idea as to how your rig can handle it. So if that is something that you're concerned about, I definitely would recommend checking that out before its release on February 28th. Overall, though, I've said it before and I'll just say it again. Capcom has truly been one of the best publishers this generation, and really this dates back probably to about 2017, and I'd say between them and Sega, they've really been two of the brightest spots for this generation. Now, speaking of questions of concern regarding performance, last year there was a pretty big controversy for Avowed. At the time, one of Obsidian's developers mentioned, quote-unquote, that they were targeting a baseline of 30 FPS bare minimum. Now, I said back then that people might not want to jump to conclusions based on that comment alone, because the way he worded it and the way he talked about it, it very much sounded like they were still optimizing for higher frame rate. Well, today, I'm happy to say that that has now been confirmed. Obsidian revealed that it does have a 60 FPS mode after all. Now, I would say more, but I'm actually trying to be a little careful about what I say about Avowed, and that's because Xbox and the Avowed team actually sent me a review code, so I am under embargo for the time being, but as soon as I'm able to, I'll let you all know more about Avowed. What I can talk about, though, is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which has had a very successful launch. This is now the third time that we're talking about its success this week alone, and that's because they just announced that it surpassed 1 million units sold. I mean, that's pretty incredible for a lesser-known franchise such as this, but it looks like it's quickly becoming a breakout hit for Warhorse Studio. I mean, it has an 88 overall score on Metacritic, it's got a 92% approval rate on Steam, and now, as we can see here, it's gotten off to an incredibly fast start in terms of units sold as well. By all means, I think word of mouth is going to spread quickly, and this is going to be a huge franchise going forward. I think a lot of people are going to go back and play the first game. Yes, it's got its problems. Its performance isn't fantastic on consoles, but it's still a good game, and then they're going to jump back into its sequel, which by all indication has improved in almost every single way. If you've played it, though, let me hear your opinion in the comments below. Do you think Deliverance 2 is as good as everybody claims it is? Okay, so let's go and talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, I feel like we kind of took a break from Switch 2 news there for a while. I mean, I feel like we kind of needed that because the endless, and I mean endless amount of rumors that led up to its reveal. But I think we just got our best official update for it yet. One of the absolute biggest concerns for the Switch 2 and its launch is stock shortages. This has been a major problem for this generation of consoles, in large part because of the rise of scalpers. Well, Nintendo's president was asked about this, and check his response out. He said, and I quote, "We will take all possible measures based on the experience we have accumulated to date regarding scalpers and the like. We are making preparations." So this really is some of the best news that they could have possibly given, considering this is one of the most anticipated console launches of all time. I mean, there's going to be a lot of demand for the Switch 2. I mean, there's no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever. But with that, I've already seen a lot of skepticism online that Nintendo can actually achieve what they're saying. As soon as fans heard this response, a lot of them immediately said, well, exactly how are they planning to stop these resellers, and how are they going to meet authentic demand? I mean, as we've seen time and time again, it doesn't really seem like retailers are going to do anything about it, because for them, a sell is a sell. They don't care if resellers are buying them, just so long as they can sell them. However, there are a few things that Nintendo can do themselves, and let me just kind of explain. One, and we actually already have some reports that they're doing this, they're going to flood the market in 2025. I mean, one of the best ways to counteract scalpers is to make sure that there's a lot of stock that's readily available. And last year, if you remember right, there was a report going around that Nintendo is preparing 20+ million Switch 2 units for its first year alone. I mean, even before that report, there were rumors that one of the reasons that Nintendo delayed the Switch 2 to 2025 is because of this very reason. They want to flood the market to counteract scalpers. And it's hard to say if that's actually true, but the reason that this is important for Nintendo is because scalpers are a problem for their business. I mean, think about it this way. If a scalper buys up, let's say, 30 consoles, well, more or less what that means is that there's 30 consoles taken away from actual customers that would also be buying games and possibly subscriptions. It's important to understand that console manufacturers make most of their money from software and not hardware. So scalpers are a legitimate threat to console manufacturers because they stifle just how much software can actually be sold. So this absolutely is a priority for Nintendo's business. Now, the other thing that Nintendo can do here, and they've done this in the past, is that they could limit who can buy it on their online store. If you look at something like Alarmo, as one such example, you have to be a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber to purchase it from their website. So I think there's actually a very good chance here that they will do something similar with the Nintendo Switch 2. So with that in mind, it might be worth staying subscribed to Switch Online for the time being, or at least until we have more information about how they're going to handle the launch of the Switch 2 and its pre-orders. Now, the one other thing that they could do, though, is limit the Switch 2 one per customer on their website. I mean, I'd like to see all retailers do something like that, but from, again, past experience, that seems fairly unlikely. But they could do that on their own website. Now, GameStop is one small exception, or at least to a degree. They do have their own yearly subscription, and it wouldn't surprise me if they lock Switch 2 pre-orders behind that subscription, or at least early on, as they've done with some of their other devices as well. Either which way, though, I mean, it sounds like Nintendo is at least preparing for a smooth launch, and hopefully the Switch 2 won't be overly difficult to get in 2025. Now, speaking of new consoles, though, we also got a report that Valve is preparing their own console to compete against PlayStation and Xbox. I saw this posted up by Ecstasis TV, and you can read it here. He said, new Steam console, very spicy with Valve. It already seems that new Steam console is coming to compete against PS5 and Xbox in the future. Thanks to Handle Deck, we have learned that Valve works hand in hand with AMD and its RDNA 4 technologies. Now, this falls in line with pretty much everything that we've heard. There's been a lot of rumors that Valve is going to license out their Steam OS, and that Steam machines are on their way back with their own first-party option as well. And I think this is actually really exciting. I mean, the PC market is growing right now, and Valve is by far the most popular PC storefront. I mean, if you think about it, they have Xbox games, they have PlayStation games, they have emulation, and most third-party companies are now on Steam as well. I mean, even Square Enix is slowly but surely making their way over. And then on top of all that, Valve even has free multiplayer unlike Xbox and PlayStation. So, Steam is versatile, and if they can make an affordable console-like experience, this could actually be an enticing option for consumers that prefers a console-like experience and the ease of plug and play. This actually kind of goes hand in hand with what I talked about yesterday. We are getting to a point where PC is kind of blurring the line of what a console actually is, and Valve is leading the charge in a big way. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you think the Nintendo Switch will overtake the PlayStation 2 as the best-selling console ever? And the majority of you predicted that yes, it absolutely will. Right now, the Switch is right around 151 million units sold. So Nintendo still needs to sell another 9 million to catch up to the PlayStation 2, and I know there's some controversy with that number and how PlayStation just randomly announced that last year, but I do think that this is still very possible for Nintendo. The Switch is such a massive, timeless library of games, and I think there will still be a consumer interest even after the release of the Switch 2. The reason for that is because Nintendo can position it as a budget-friendly option during the holiday period when parents are looking for gifts. So I think if anything else here, the 2025 holiday season will tell us a lot about whether or not this milestone will be achievable for Nintendo. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.